In the last video, we talked about there is a check box and there's also a check delegate. And I said the check delegate's a little bit more advanced. I wanted to touch on that briefly. I don't think it's fair to say it's too advanced, we're not going to talk about it. I want to show you just the tip of the iceberg so you understand what I mean by it's a little bit more advanced. So here we have 3 check boxes. Or do we? Actually, we don't. These are check delegates, but they look and act just like check boxes. The difference is they're used in model view architecture. So let's jump in here. And I'm going to do this via code. You can do this via the editor if you want. And I'm going to import Qt Quick. And I want to do qtquick.controls. And I'm just going to do 2.3, but you can do whichever version you want. I'm going to say column. And let's just hand jam these in. So I want to say width, and I'm just going to guess width, height. Let's make this 400 and anchors. We're going to center this in parent. And let's go ahead and add a label. So I'm going to say label. And let's give this a text. Really don't even need to do this, and I actually misspelled it. So it's Q string translate, and we're going to say selected here. And let's just say you're really sick of doing it like this. You can 100% seamlessly drop right into the editor. And let's say we wanted to do this as bold. So you could kind of hunt and peck and figure out where bold is, and then bang, there it is. And then you know what? You really don't want to do this anymore. You want to go back to the editor. You can seamlessly go back and forth. That's one thing I really love about this. We're going to take a list view. Notice there's list element, list model, list view. We want the list view because we're doing model view programming. So the view is what's displayed to the user. We can say width 200, height 200. The model is the data that we're going to display. And in this case, we're just going to use an array, and we're going to say option A, option B, and option C. Now we need a delegate. So delegate's a little bit tricky to understand, but there's a model, view, and a controller. The delegate is actually the controller, and it's not a pure controller. It gets into way more advanced than we can talk about. But when you think delegate, think controller. It's going to control how that is actually rendered on the screen. And that's actually a function of the view, and that's why I said it's not a true controller. So Qt gets some flack for this because it's not a pure model view controller paradigm in the sense that you're thinking about. And this is what I meant by it gets really confusing. All right, so basics, what you need to understand is we have a view, we have a model, which is the data we're going to view, and then we have a delegate, which is going to determine how we view it. And we're going to say we want text. And this is going to be the model data. In case you're wondering how the heck I even came out with model data, did I just pick a name out of thin air? No. So if you start typing, IntelliSense is not going to help us out. You actually have to go in and read the documentation for the check delegate to figure out what model data is. And it gets a little bit lengthy and it can get a little confusing. See, ta-da, text model data. Really what it is every model follows a predictable pattern or an API, if you will. And the model data is, you guessed it, the data from the model, that specific item. So every time this is rendered, every time each object is rendered, it's going to go, where am I at? My position is 1 because it's 0-based. This is 1. There's our model data. Gets a little bit lengthy, but I think you get the point. And because this is a check delegate, we can use the events from the check delegate. I'm going to say on, and we want onCheck state changed. Label.text. If this seems very confusing, it's because it's very more advanced than where we are now. I just didn't want to leave you hanging and say, hey, what is he talking about? And I'm going to say index, which is the current index. And let's go ahead and say plus model data plus, and we're just building this string so that we can see it. So what does all of this gobbledygook mean? Let's break this down and explain it. First off, we just simply have our column, then we have our list view. I should say we have our label, but when we have our list view, the view is how we're going to view the model. The model is this. The delegate determines how we view that. In this case, we're just going to say the text of our check delegate is the model data. The model data is the current index where we're at. So what this is going to do is it's going to say, okay, start this off. I need to render. There's 3 items. Item 0, that's the model data. Item 1, that's the model data. Item 2, that's the model data. And then each time it's going to call this bad boy. To demonstrate, let's run this. Index 0, the text is option A, and it's currently true. So let's just scroll this up so we can see what's going on in that delegate. So each time it's rendering that out. So there is option B, which is our text, option B. And when we change that state, it's going to call the onCheck state changed. And then it's going to say label text, this guy up here, is equal to the index, the model data, and the value. So we can just do things like this. Seems complex, seems confusing, and it's because it is. This is more advanced than what this series is really going to cover, but I wanted to show you the tip of the iceberg so you understood the difference between a checkbox and a check delegate. Whenever you see delegate, think model view programming.